if somebody clicked on this YouTube video and they're saying, Jenna, you're really good at what you're doing. I'm interested in potentially doing this as a career. I'm looking for tips. Do you think I should still pursue a career in hairstyling in 2022? What do you say?
As long as you have comfy shoes, yes, you should.
Okay, great. That means that we have an interview that we can actually do here. Okay, here we are with Jenna Pitocco, live from her parents' closets. An unbelievable hairstylist is joining us today so that we can answer the question, what does it look like to be a hairstylist in 2022? We want to give a little bit of background on Jenna. She has been working with hair for 11 years. She co-founded her own salon in New York City right before the pandemic. January 3rd, 2020. Not only did they survive, they are thriving now. You can follow them. You can see their work at Love Dunette, her personal Instagram. Hey, I know her. Like, hey, I know her. I know her. And we'll be sharing some photos from the gram as well. But we're going to get immediately to the question right now. No small talk. No, how was your day? Tell me, because I love asking this question. What are you most proud of yourself? Like, it really actually brings pride to you for what you've accomplished in these 11 years working with hair.
I am most proud for the fact that I jumped off the conveyor belt in college. I finished out my junior year of school and then dropped out and started hair school that fall. And I feel so proud of my younger self being that determined to be happy in what they were doing. So, and here I am 11 years later, and I'm just elated to know what my career has turned into. It's like I want to give my younger self a pat on the back for that, because they had no idea how big that was. But yeah, that would be it.
I love that. I feel like so much of growing up in life is learning that you actually really probably should stop every once in a while and try to give yourself a little bit of a pat.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you don't realize until you get a moment of reflection to know how much you've accomplished or how much you've done. Because we set out these goals, and then as soon as you get to that goal, you most likely have created other goals. So that big goal is now like a little one that's like, oh, okay, I got here, but I'm now focused on that. And so by the time you keep going and then finally someone's like, hey, what's your life like? And you get to name it. It's like, oh shit, I have done a lot. Or like, I have made it pretty far.
The life of an entrepreneur is that you can sometimes fall into this trap of thinking that if you're not already working on the very next thing, right, that you're becoming stagnant. So let's talk about the things that you have accomplished, right? I sent over a lot of different areas. We're going to try to timestamp in this YouTube video so people can click on specific ideas for cutting hair. But I want to start with one of the things I'm most passionate about, which is work-life balance and how mental health can be affected by the career you choose and how you choose to be in that career. I watched hours and hours of interviews with hairstylists on YouTube, and something that came up in every single one of them, and I'm telling you that it leaned very strongly negative, was people talking about wanting to find time just to eat a sandwich or to go to the bathroom, right? And this culture that seemed very demanding of being at the chair. And so I'm really curious now, over a decade, and probably starting at some point where you were at a lower level and now being a co-founder, I'd really love your perspective on that.
I hate that perspective so much. I understand what those people are saying, but I also think that those people are losing sight of what they are there for. People wait weeks or months for their appointment. They come in, they should be getting the best version of you. So if that means you've been holding in your pee for 4 hours, that's not your best self, because your mindset is somewhere else, not just on their hair. There's nothing wrong with being with a client and just saying, hey, like after you wash their hair or something, send them back to the chair and be like, hey, I'll be right back. I'm just going to use the restroom real quick. There's no reason you should not be doing that. I understand the point of finding it hard to find a bite to eat and everything, but that's why you prepare throughout the day. How many times I'm going to mix color and I have like an RX bar or something over there for me to just snack on while I'm mixing up color, whatever it is. But I think there's people who like to talk extremes, And it's like, oh, I do this thing, but listen to how hard it is or how difficult it is to like have a good time doing it. You put those restrictions on yourself, and there's no reason to do that. And also you should be comfortable enough with your clients to be like, yo, I gotta go pee. That's fine, you know? But I think it makes the more comfortable you get with your clients, the more confident you get in yourself doing the work, you are able to just step away. I do think, however, a lot of hairstylists don't take care of themselves physically by, you know, making sure to work out, because you're standing all day. You need to make sure that your body is in good alignment, the ergonomics are there, you have a strong tush and legs on you, you know, to stand all day and protect your back. And a lot of people don't do that. And then they're always achy or complaining of certain pains in their shoulders or arms or back. And it's like, well, that's preventative also. The worst that I've ever been in my career is in my early 20s, living in New York and going out and partying during the night. But this was during the time that I was an assistant. So I wasn't even a paid stylist doing the hair. I was doing shampoos and stuff. So I would come in hungover, and those days would wreck me. But in general, I've always been pretty active with working out.
Tell us your thoughts on education in your space. And I love it, even if not only what do you think about people that are starting out, but even after that, your opinion on continuing education for people that are, you know, in the space.
I think when I was looking for a school to go to, there were many options. Some are run by the state, essentially. And then you have, I went to a Paul Mitchell school. And then there's the classic, Arrojo schools or anything like that are pretty, like, those seem very prestigious. And I understand the name behind it. Even Paul Mitchell is pretty much a well-known name. If you were to say Paul Mitchell, you would think of hair. I think that there was a benefit of going to a school the way I did from a Paul Mitchell school, because you get to, the entire experience is different. A lot of the girls that I know that have gone to the state schools, it's kind of, it can be kind of janky, and it's honestly not that much less money than what I paid for a Paul Mitchell school. The tools you get are really good. The experience as far as like learning their systems, so that you leave that program truly knowing like highlighting systems and like different techniques and everything, even down to blow drying and everything like that. So I thought it was really beneficial. And then they also provide opportunities to do hair for different things around the community or the city, which was wonderful. And I think something I also enjoyed about it was they taught you both cut and color. Some of the other schools like Arrojo or Aveda, you kind of have to choose, do you want to be a colorist or do you want to be a hair cutter? And I think for me, I'm choosing this whole new passion that I've been excited about. I don't want to stifle my creativity. And I want to learn it all because I want to be in control of what is going on in my chair. I don't want to have to rely on someone's cutting skills to go with my coloring skills. So I really appreciated the fact that I didn't have to stifle which avenue I was able to choose from. So I think that there's a lot of research that should go into it if someone is choosing to go to the schools. But with that said, when I left my school and then I moved to New York and I started my apprenticeship, I was really doing a lot of work to kind of, personally, I was like, oh, I want to like kind of scratch what I learned and learn from these people that I'm now working with at the salon. And also you leave school like on a high horse, like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I'm the best in this clinic floor. I'm taking all the clients that are walking through. And then you go into a salon to work and you're like, holy crap, I don't know a lot. And it's really overwhelming. So I think it's really nice to have something under your belt, but not feeling lost. But you also can have some confidence going into a salon and then knowing that you're learning from other people. And then as far as like continuing education, I think what I've learned from firsthand experience is, I guess it's different now too, because social media is there. So when I first started doing hair and was trying to continue education, I had to truly take classes, which I still do sometimes. But now you can go on YouTube, you can go on TikTok, you can go on Instagram, you can go on any of these platforms, and there's free education. And what I definitely learned is I enjoy learning from individuals, not from a brand. So I used to go to certain classes run by a certain hair brand, and I would ask a question like, hey, what about blah, blah, blah? And they're like, oh, well, technically you shouldn't be doing that. It's like, well, literally I'm going to, so you might as well tell me what I should be doing. Meanwhile, if you go to an individual who's teaching a class, they're very much like, yo, this is how I do it. This is why I do it, and take it as you will, make it your own, whatever. And that's what I love. So I think that's really important to find the classes that are run by individuals, so you get their raw, true intake on all of this, not just a guideline rule book of what's right or wrong. If you're going to a trade school of any sort, it's because you have a strong interest in something that is not traditional learning or work. And so to me, the amount of money that I spent on college for 3 of those years, I mean, what a waste to me, because I was just like, I was there because I thought I had to be. And so then when you're going to a trade school, it's like, yo, I'm learning exactly what I need to know in order to do this job. Whereas most people get a degree and then they don't learn what they need to know for the job until they get to that job. Unless you're an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, that's totally different. I mean, look at $40,000 a year for the school that I went to compared to the $15,000 that I spent on hair school and easily made up fast.
I think more now than ever, let's advocate for the trade schools. Okay, great. All right, so we've talked about some of these basic things. Here's something that I thought was interesting. I listened to multiple people talk about how they kind of wish maybe they had researched a little bit more about a salon before just saying yes to their first opportunity, right? And other people being like, just say yes, just get in anywhere.
I think it's definitely, if you're going to be choosing to work in a salon, you need to, I mean, I even did so much research when I was moving to New York. I applied to 30 different spots, but it was after I would look at their website. I would check out, like, what's the vibe there? I would read the bios of all the stylists to be like, okay, well, what's their background? What do they, like, do they have a specialty, or what's their deal? I would also really check out the area that it was in, and then kind of do research on the area, because I'm like, well, does this area house the type of client that I would want? The clientele, like, do you want your clientele to be edgy and cool? Do you want them to be more cookie cutter? Do you want them to be, like, whatever you want them to be? You have to really research the area. I think doing trial days as an assistant is super important, so that you can work there for a day and just see, like, okay, do I like how this is? And you can kind of chat with people who have worked there, hopefully chat to someone who also assisted there or did their apprenticeship, so you can ask them what their experience has been like. My experience, I went somewhere that every single stylist was from a different school, a different area, all had different education and had different specialties. And that's where I gained the most resources and tools for myself. And I was able to pick things from every single stylist to make my own. So I think that was really beneficial. I think if you're going to be like, truly, like, I don't know, I just feel like if you're going to the extra mile of going to a trade school to hone in on this creative thing that you're really wanting to make your passion, you shouldn't just say yes to anything. You should be like, is this going to help me? Is this something that's going to benefit me? Or is it going to suck up my time and be something that I'm not that excited about?
Jenna's research detective mind of, you know, what's cool and edgy, what's cookie cutter.
It was, so let's see. So the salon that I started off at, I remember when I saw the website and stuff, I was like, oh, this place looks cool. And then the bios seemed cool. Everybody there had a different style in a way that it seemed like, I don't know, they were just like on the right page of feeling confident about themselves and the style that they were honing in on. But I remember then going on Google Maps, typing in the address, and then I would do Street View to kind of look around and see what it was like. And then you can see the people walking on the street and what they are dressed like, what bags are in their hands, because then that tells you what stores are around there. And I thought that was really cool. And then anytime I went in for an interview, I arrived about 40 minutes early so I could walk around the area and see what was going on there. And I think it gave me a really good idea of what to expect.
Part one of this interview was from your father's closet because you were back home visiting your parents.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. You are now no longer in the closet. So if you wouldn't mind explaining just where you are now and how it compares to the first part of the interview to now. We are currently where?
We are now in my brother's bedroom.
That's great. Okay. Better energy. Yeah, do you miss the closet?
You know, it was cozy in there, but also getting a little hot and stuffy.
What's your perspective on somewhat healthy expectations? I know this might depend whether or not you're living in a high cost of living city like New York or if you're somewhere else, but what's your perspective on financial expectations from the career early on and kind of, you know, how to set your expectations to a good place?
Well, it's all how you said, it's definitely relative to the area and location that you decide to start working. But I know that when I first started, I was getting minimum wage, which was at the time $10 an hour. And then I was getting tips on top of that from clients. And then the better you get to know the clients that you are shampooing or maybe finishing blow dries for, or just getting to chat to, the more they will end up tipping you because you're not just a random person. They're building a relationship with you as well. I think the real expectations for some people, and I always talk about this when I go back to the school to be a guest speaker there, is you have to be patient because first of all, you don't want to end up on the floor too early and not really knowing the ins and outs of the work you're about to do. But you also need to realize it's going to take time to build a book. So once you are an assistant and you're making an hourly wage plus tips, you're not necessarily making a ton of money. And on top of that, for my case, I was in my early 20s in New York. So I was then going out at night and hanging out with friends and spending money that I definitely should have been saving. But, you know, it's the name of the game here. And then once you go on the floor, you normally do it part-time. So some of the days of the week you are still assisting so that you have that stable income. And then the other days you start taking clients so that you can start building your book, but you're not going to be busy at all. It's not like the days you're on the floor, you're booked back to back all day. It's like, I mean, my mom still talks about the days where I would wait around all day just for one client. And so I think that's a lot of where people get impatient once they are starting their career behind the chair. But I mean, you have to be mindful with your money. I thankfully started saving at a young age, and got in the habit of that, but there's a significant chunk of money you wish you had, but you don't for a while. And you just have to get confident in yourself to know that money is going to be coming at some point, but it's because you put in the work and you take the time to understand what you're doing and that you're messing around with someone's main accessory. And you need to do it right and not just half-ass it or go into it like, I don't know what I'm doing, because you're not going to get paid good for that.
How long do you think it took you? Because I think the natural segue here is to talk about building a book, right? Yeah. I think it's a really great image to put somebody in to say, yeah, I know what it was like to have my mom asking me about my day and, you know, feeling bad for me or something, you know, because I was sitting around for one or two clients. So you've been there, right? And now you're in a completely different place. So totally. Obviously you had a mindset, but obviously you were doing things while you had that mindset of sticking it out, right? Yeah. So let's talk about that, right? You've got I checked earlier, and because we're going to be sharing your Instagram for the salon and for yourself on the video, it's a referral only place now that you're at. So I assume that means like it's you can't just be saying yes to appointments because of how successful the book building has gotten to you. So take me along this journey where we were waiting for that one person to show up. And now you're like, I would love to book an appointment with you, but I kind of need, I need a referral. Like, how did we get here?
Let's see. Wow, I've never had to go through this whole process of how it
I'll
came
say
to
this.
be.
If you feel like it's overwhelming to do some big, long novel here, then you can just hit the speed points. And if you're enjoying talking about a little bit of the story, then do that as well.
No, I definitely enjoy it.
Cool.
It's a nice reflection. Yeah, I remember when I first went on the floor, part-time was one thing, but then I remember going up to my boss and the owner of the salon and saying, starting next week, I want to be on the floor full-time. And she was like, if you feel ready, let's do it. So the following week, I went on the floor full-time and I was working, let's see, Wednesday through Saturday and every other Sunday. And then I switched it to Tuesday through Saturday and every other Sunday. And then I ended up picking up Mondays at Blind Barber because I wanted even more clients, learning how to do men's hair specifically and extra money. So for about 2 years, I worked 7 days a week because I was also at the point where it was like I needed to learn how to retain clients. And, you know, building a book is not just about your skill level. It's about your social skills. It's about how well you can make someone feel comfortable. And that's really, really important. And that with time will come also, but sometimes it's the most natural thing that can happen behind the chair is you just being good at talking and getting to know people. But I remember a client would message me and be like, hey, like, are you able to do my hair on whatever day? And it would be a day of the week that I wasn't working, but I would say, yeah, I can do it because I'm thinking in my head, I don't want them to go to someone else and potentially start building a relationship with somebody else and then not come back to me. So that's how I ended up working as much as I did because I wanted to retain those clients. So some of those days I would go in just for like a couple clients or whatever. But then over time, you get to the point where it's like, and during all this, I was still social. I was still like being mindful of like what I was doing at night. But I, because I was working so much, I wasn't like not seeing friends. I still was. Teeny used to always call me the Energizer Bunny because she had no idea how I was always just go, go, go. And then still waking up early to work out and then make it to work on time. But I definitely got to the point where I was like, okay, I have enough clients that I can condense my days now. So then that's when I went back to Wednesday through Saturday, every other Sunday. And I worked at Blind Barber on Mondays, I think for almost 3 years. And then I got to the point where I was like, I don't even need this anymore. And so I left that job. But then I started getting, I guess it was from like Instagram, first from people referring me to their friends. But then through Instagram, I was getting a lot of new clients just from posting on there and people seeing my work and, you know, looking up NYC haircut hashtag and then going to my work and then seeing more of it. So I built a lot of my clients through social media. And then fast forward even more, I got to the point where I was booked out enough that I could start renting instead of being commission, which is a big deal as a stylist because renting your chair means you're paying a monthly cost to work and use that salon space, but you are running your business out of it. So I made 100% profit and just paid X amount every month to work at the salon that I was working at. And that was such a big deal. And some people stay there in their career because they have no interest in having a brick and mortar or their own space altogether. But I am a control freak sometimes. And so I wanted to have control over even the music that was playing in the salon or how things looked and where I could put things. And so I really wanted to eventually own my own thing. And Teeny and I would always talk about that. So let me think, I guess by the time that we started construction on Love Dunette, I was booked out about a month in advance with clients. And then by now I'm booked out almost entirely through August. And right now we're in May. So that's something that I started to realize like, okay, I went to referral only actually for multiple reasons. One was I needed to make sure that I still had time and space in my schedule for my OG clients, because if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be where I am now, because they're the ones that trusted me throughout the entire years of me going from okay to great with my skill level. But then also when we came back from the pandemic and being in quarantine, there were, I mean, the whole joke during quarantine, how many times did you hear people saying, like, talking about their hair and just needing to get their hair done or whatever? I can't wait to go into the salon or the barber shop. So by the time we were reopening, think of all those people that may have had their stylist move away or the salon was no longer open. So all these people now needed new places to go. But then we kept hearing from other salon owners what nightmares of clients were coming in. And that's because they have no relationship with this stylist or this salon space. And I mean, you've been to our location. You walk in and I feel like you immediately just feel comfortable because all of us get along. All the clients are of a certain vibe. Like, it's just a really nice environment in there.
Where I'll be showing nice little pictures on the YouTube video as you're talking about it. Beautiful space.
Don't forget to show Hattie because she's the star of the show.
Who's Hattie?
Really?
No, I know who Hattie is. Who's Hattie?
I was like, what do you mean, who's Hattie?
Hattie's there every day.
She's the best dog ever, besides Riggs.
I love that we got such an insight to, not only do you love this dog, but the idea that this dog might have been forgotten by somebody, right? That was your interpretation. Your
so
whole
true.
body flew back. You're like, I can't eat.
Excuse me. We did all of the interior design. I'm definitely at a cutoff for allowing to bring more plants in, and I get it. But I'm like, I'm the one that takes care of them, so why is everyone complaining? But yeah, I think we wanted to really secure that space. We wanted to make sure that it didn't get tainted by the wrong energies coming in. So we really wanted to make sure that people who are coming in would respect us, respect the space, respect our time, and respect the fact that we're good at what we do. And this sounds so pretentious, but like, I don't need you to come in my chair for me to make money, like, or to have clients. Like, it should be special for you to come see me. I'm not begging you to come in. So if you're coming in, it's because you know someone who's already here, because then depending on who it is, like, they could say like, oh, I was referred by Charlie Todd. I'd be like, oh, I love Charlie. I love his energy. I'm going to probably assume that your energy or your personality is close to his in some capacity if you're friends. And so that made the most sense to me at that time. And it has gone really well. So I've kept it now for, I guess, like a year and a half, almost. Oh my God, next month will be 2 years since we came back to the salon, but 2 years now with a referral program to come see me. And it's been really good. But it has really made sure that we keep the energy that we want in there for sure.
I want to talk about this thing that you mentioned, right? You're building your book and you're talking about how much you learned about social skills for building your book. Specifically, being able to talk all day and remember things about clients and make them feel comfortable, all stuff that you said verbatim, right? I assume there was some type of learning curve. Do you have strategies or tips or things that that worked for you to kind of get into some sort of rhythm there, that now obviously people feel a certain way when they're in your chair because you're booked out for the next 3 to 4 months?
Yeah, it definitely, there is a learning curve, but then there's a pattern you can kind of get into. It's really interesting because I just talked about like the art of conversation with Mac, because he was just asking in general, like, how do I talk all day and not just do small talk? And so basically, as soon as someone walks in the door and they're here for their appointment, I make sure to just like, I myself take a deep breath and I'm like, just get yourself settled while you're taking off your coat. Do you want anything to drink? So I immediately want to make sure that they don't feel like an internal like rush to like have to get in my chair. It's like, yo, take your time. We're good. Even if like they're a few minutes late or I'm running late, I want to make sure we set the the tone for good energy and feeling safe and just cooled off, you know? But once they're in my chair, I don't immediately start talking about hair. It's normally like, so what's been going on today? What have you done? And they'll tell me about their day. And then if they're like, oh, I ran errands, I'll be like, oh, I had to do that yesterday. What errands did you have to run today? So the true nature of conversation is not always just, you want to think of follow-up questions. Oh, I had to run errands today. And you can relate by saying, oh, I had to do that yesterday. What errands did you have to run today? And they might be like, oh, I had to go grocery shopping. I had to return something. And then I'll say, was it at least in the neighborhood or was it somewhere else? And then they can answer that. And then if they say, oh, and I had to return this thing in West Village, then I'll be like, oh, I never go over in that area. Do you go there often? So it's a lot of follow-up questions. And sometimes, like you want to, I'm sure everybody can remember a time that they would be talking to someone and they immediately take it back to themselves and it ends your moment for speaking, which is just always awkward. So it's like, okay, like I will put little cues in here that let you know that I relate to what you did or what you're saying, but I'm still going to continue asking you questions to make sure that you feel like you have the ground for speaking. Or even, I remember like when I came back from a girls trip and people were like, what have you done lately? And I would be like, oh, because I also don't want to talk about the same thing all day, every day. Because everyone's going to ask me, what have you been up to? It's like, I don't want to talk about what I've been up to a million times. So I would be like, oh, we just got back from Punta Cana. They'll be like, oh, that's great. And I would be like, oh, I stayed in an all-inclusive. Have you ever stayed in an all-inclusive before? And they'll either say yes or no. And then we can talk about something like that. That way it can take it off of me. Because frankly, at the end of the day, I don't want to have the same conversation about myself multiple times, unless there's like some really good drama or gossip that I can tell my clients about, because I love that so much.
This is what I liked about what you did. You pointed out that if you are thinking that you'll just be able to talk about your whatever's new and interesting in your life, you're going to hear yourself saying the same thing over it again. You're going to slowly lose more and more interest in people.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Care.
Yeah.
And I think that's brilliant. You know, they want to know, they want to connect with you, right? So I assume they want to know something about you so that they feel like there's a reciprocal relationship, most people, because then you say something, I say something, but then you find a really smart, quick way, hopefully, to get them right back into what they're doing. So
100%.
All right, we're both going to take a collective breath, right?
Okay.
This will be a clip that we have here, and I'm gonna get into your chair. So do I just put my coat anywhere, or?
No, you can hang it up right in the front. There's a few hooks, and while you're doing that, do you want anything to drink? We have water, wine, beer, whiskey.
Yeah. Oh my God. Whiskey sounds
okay. Cool.
Amazing. Let's do
All
that.
Right, it's gonna be neat. We don't have ice cubes. I'm so sorry.
No, I think it looks cooler with nothing in it.
I totally agree. So, I'm not a whiskey drinker, but I'm assuming you are if you're able to drink it neat. So I'll get that for you, and then I'll meet you at my station.
I'm able to, but I don't.
I can do that.
Yeah, I like the way it'll make me feel in the salon holding the whiskey as if I'm like a professional.
Oh yeah, and then just whenever I'm not looking, dump it out. Yeah,
you get it. Okay, all right. I'm in the chair, and
okay, you're in the chair,
feeling great. And let's just do a 90-second minute of pivoting with Jenna Pitocco.
Okay.
I'm gonna start because that's a little bit of where I would start. Just for a second, like, yeah, how are you? What have you been up to?
I'm good. You're just in town for a little bit, right? Because you moved to LA recently.
Yeah, no, it's true. I love it out here. It's great. Do you think you would ever leave New York, or?
I think about it sometimes, but now that I have the salon, it'll probably be a while until I say adios to the city, but I really do love it. But how long were you here? It was a while, yeah?
Well, we could talk about that, but I'm more interested in like what your day was like today, Jenna. Like, what have you been up to? Or did you have some recent trip that you just came back from, or?
I actually just went to visit my parents in Pittsburgh. I surprised my mom for Mother's Day.
Oh my God, how'd that go?
It wasn't too bad. I was in the closet for a little bit, but once I got out of there, it was a really nice trip. But yeah, I don't know. Have you ever been to Pittsburgh?
There it is. So marking that, right? This is the how was your Mother's Day or whatever it is.
Yeah, like, did you do? But then also,
see, I'm kind of like, can I trap you into getting me every detail that you've already given everybody else through the day? And can you conserve? Can you like prioritize and conserve your own energy and finding smart ways to bring it back to me?
Yeah. And it's also, I have to be mindful too, especially if it's a new client, or maybe like I've had some clients for years and I don't know some big factors in their life, but I would
might
never...
not just want to ask about Mother's Day.
Exactly. Right, so I'll say like, oh, I went home to surprise my mom for Mother's Day. Did you do anything this weekend? Because that gives them an open door to not mention Mother's Day at all. Or they could be like, oh yeah, I went up to Connecticut to see my mom or whoever. So I'm always mindful about that because I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable giving information that I don't necessarily need to know if they don't want me to know it.
There might be a chance that you're good at this.
I think so. I think so. I think something that's also really important is, people get nervous about being good listeners. And sometimes it's not just about, you don't have to hone in on every single detail. There's going to be key things that you think about so that later on, like say the conversation has died down a little bit. But I remember they said that they returned something to Reformation and there's a little bit of silence. I could just be like, hey, I've never really shopped at Reformation. I know you said you returned something there. Do you normally find like good things there? And I will open up the door to something they previously said, even though I don't remember every detail or whatever it is. And it's definitely helpful. And something that I've told Mac before is, and he just used this recently. He went to a work event and was
for my video.
Mac
is the long time love
boyfriend,
of your life.
4 years. Yeah. And he started speaking to someone who really enjoys making cocktails. And so Mac then asked a bunch of questions about the cocktail making. What do you normally use? Do you have a favorite alcohol? Do you have a favorite type of tool to use? Whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I love that he did that because I do that all the time. If someone mentions in any capacity an interest, I will start asking questions about that interest because I know they're going to enjoy talking about it. And also I get to learn something new, which is really exciting too, which keeps me from getting bored, Sometimes I'll have someone in my chair that I haven't seen for months and I will randomly be like, oh my God, wait, you went to a potluck last time you were here. Did you end up making the whatever dish you told me about or what'd you end up doing? I will randomly remember the most specific topics that we had talked about. And it's fascinating every single time it happens because I'll just like get this like little like light. It's like a little light goes into my brain and focuses on this one little topic that they mentioned, and then I'll expand on it. And it's just funny. I think it's because I've done this pattern of conversation so much that my brain then categorizes certain things that months later something will spark something that was deep in the vaults, It
seems a lot of this comes out of some sense of genuine curiosity or genuine interest in your clients, right? Because we had talked about this method that you mentioned that you're really against that I found on a couple videos for tips for hairstylists about, if you're not feeling it, just fake it, Yeah,
I hate that mentality.
You make it. So yeah, can you give me your response? Where does that response come from within you of being like, no, don't fake it till you make it?
This is not, it's rare that I'm going to say to fake it till you make it because that never feels good. It's like if you took in a cheat sheet secretly to a class to take a test and then you find out you got an A on it, but then you don't actually know the information. That doesn't feel good. You cheated during it. So my perspective, especially for this industry, is people are paying you a lot of money. Even when you're starting off, it feels overwhelming how much people are paying for a service that you're providing. If you're faking it and it's their main accessory and your hair is already a literal dead fiber, and so there's no coming back if it's damaged or anything. There's no reason to fake it. You just need to learn it. You need to do what you can to either get models in your chair so you can practice more. You can truly say, if someone sits down and they're like, hey, I want to get XYZ done to my hair, and you are not confident in that service, you have to be honest at that point and be like, I actually wouldn't be the best for this because it's not my specialty, but I can recommend people who would be great for this. Because I'm not going to risk ruining someone's hair and then either making them pay for it and me walking away from that client as they leave thinking, oh God, I'm not proud of what I just did on their hair, or having to refund them completely. So then I just wasted my own time, their time, ruined something on their head, and I lost money on it. So there's no reason to fake it till you make it at all. I think we also learned that from What's Her Face from Theranos. You don't fake it till you make it because it's going to blow up sometimes.
Do you want to give us a little bit of like what it sounds like if you unfortunately haven't been taking care of your hair or something happened, somebody else maybe did something to it and they're coming to you in the hope of rescue or something, and you have to have that conversation with them that you're not the person, but you'll try to give that empathy or try to give that advice? Like, can we do a little bit of a role play that I've just now in your chair and you're diagnosing the issue?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, cool. So you sit down and your hair is super damaged, and it might be a case that you are aware that it's damaged, or it could be a case where you know it's damaged and you're coming to me to work out options. The one thing for sure is this takes confidence. It takes a lot of time to build the confidence to tell a client no, but the secret is you say no, but here's why. So if you sat down and your hair is just not in good condition, but you want to do XYZ to it because you're unaware of the condition of your hair, I'm going to probably look at the photos that you show me and say, I really love this as a goal, but currently, because the state of your hair, I don't think it can be achieved today, but it can be something we work towards. But let me tell you why. I don't know what they did on your hair previously at the other salon you went to, but a lot of this is breakage. And the breakage happens when the hair has just been overworked with bleach or has just been overprocessed in general. And I want you to leave over the course of time with healthier hair. So I think what we should do to get to this end goal of this picture is, and I'll then tell them the plan of what I think we should do. Some people don't want to hear it because they just want it there and now. And so I always let them know, like, if this is not sounding great to you, I understand, because this would be a big investment to get to that point. But if you choose to go somewhere else and they say that they can do this for you in one day, I highly recommend not doing it, because your hair is going to get a little bit more damaged and you're not going to feel good about it. So that's like the main course that I go through as far as educating my client. Sometimes I ask my clients, do you want me to get nerdy with this? And if they say yes, I go into the complete science of the hair and what happened and why it happened and what should happen, whatever it is. And I feel like most people now respond well because they're coming to me for my expertise, and they trust me. So normally it turns out pretty okay. And then other times people come in knowing that their hair is pretty messed up and they're asking me, what can we do? And then that's great because it opens the door for me to give them options and timelines and realistic expectations. Because that's the main thing, is building realistic expectations, not leading them on. And I like to under promise, but over deliver, hopefully. So, but that, like I said, it takes a lot of confidence to do that.
You say that you think that, like, maybe earlier in your career, that wasn't something that you either could do or something that you couldn't do as well. Yeah, give me a little bit.
Definitely couldn't do at all at first, and then couldn't do it that well. And now I do it pretty well.
So would you still just take an attempt at trying to get to them to where they wanted to be early on, or?
Yeah, because in my mind, I had the yes mentality and I wanted to fake it till I make it. So if someone said, oh, I want this, and I'm thinking to myself, oh God, like this isn't going to look good, or like, oh God, like I'm not capable of this, or their hair is not going to be able to handle this, I was too scared to say no because I wanted this client to like me because I said yes. And the thing I love about my job is I don't bring it home with me at night. It's not a job that, like, my day is filled with mini projects. And then the next day is all new mini projects. If you go home thinking about someone's hair, it's because you're unsatisfied with your work in some capacity. And Yeah, definitely early on in my career, there were moments where I said yes to things I shouldn't have, and I learned the hard way. I can't do that.
I think these are absolutely the best stories, though, to share with an audience, right? It reminds other people that, yeah, you're a successful co-founder now, and you've got a huge waiting list in a large book, but you didn't just magically have this energy and this ability to have a difficult conversation with somebody in your chair. You had to learn it. So I think kind of being able to acknowledge, like, it's tough and it's okay if you don't have that ability at the very beginning, but the sooner you can get to what I'm hearing from you as, we can get to this goal together. It won't happen today, but let me tell you why and what we will do about it.
Exactly.
And that's what builds the trust. If you could go to a younger version of yourself, that would be what you would tell them. Like, here's the blueprint for trying to have this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also something that, I mean, I've said it 1,000 times. Like, when I go to the school to speak as a guest speaker, I think I make all of them piss themselves a little bit, because at some point I say, to this day, there are moments where I want to drop my tools and just say, this. I want to walk out right now. I want to cry. And that's normal. If you talk to any hairstylist and they say that doesn't happen every so often, they're lying, because they're just too high up to admit that there's ever fault in what they do. But every so often it's going to happen that you're like, oh God. But the beauty of going through years and being honest with yourself and being honest with your clients and gaining that confidence is when those moments happen that you just want to, like, drop your tools and walk out on them. You are able to know, okay, let me go in the back and just take a couple deep breaths and let me figure out my plan. And there's times I go back when that happens, and I just close my eyes and I'm thinking, okay, let's think of this. And that's what has to happen sometimes. Not every single client is going to walk out completely 100% in love with their hair. No matter how good you are, every so often there's going to be someone. And honestly, there's even been times with me or any of the other girls at the salon. It just happened to me. I guess it was like 3 weeks ago. I did this girl's hair. She was really happy with it, but she left, and I was thinking to myself, I could have done better. And in my mind, I'm like, I want to make sure, like, everybody's a walking billboard for me and my work. So if I'm not completely satisfied with it, I don't want them telling anybody that I'm the one that did their hair. So I actually reached out to that client later on that night, and I said, hey, I hope this isn't inconvenient, but I would love if I could have you back in the salon. There's a few things that, after looking at the photos I took of your hair, I would love to tweak. And they're always like, oh yeah, that's fine. And they'll come in, and because I want to make sure that I'm proud of my work, and they've spent a good amount of money and they spent their time in my chair. I want to make sure that if I'm not satisfied with their hair, then why the hell should they be, you know?
I don't want to skip over probably what's really important about that conversation, though, is there's probably some finessing in the language use and the tone that you use, even if it's through DMs or texting, so that there's an opportunity to make their hair look even better versus, yo, I fucked up. Totally. Because at the end of the day, it's not that I even fucked up, but it's like, this could be better. Like, I know I could have done a better job. Better enough for you that it's worth making time to do it. And I think that's probably a good thing for somebody to hear, is to be not just confident that you could reach back out to somebody and they'll likely say yes, but that you're probably kind of mindful about how you're texting them or DMing them for them to come in and to do that. Absolutely. Because I don't want them to ever think, like, if someone worded it incorrectly and then they're reading this from the person who just did their service, they would be like, oh my God, wait, is it not good? Like, is what is here bad? But I will say, and this might lead into something else, but the days that happens, it's because I have outside things on my mind. And that's the one thing that is really hard with doing this for work is, say I'm having the worst day of my life, or I just had a really emotional night for whatever reason. I don't go into an office the next day and sit at a computer and put in earbuds so I can, like, just listen to music and do my work. I have to go into a space. I have to stand all day. I have to talk all day. I have to use chemicals and do chemistry. And
that's what my day is filled with. And so I have to make sure, like, I mean, honestly, like, that's a big issue with this industry, is that we will never be able to properly process emotions or situations that happen, because we can't just, you have to leave it at the door. But the days that, like, I have something on my mind, I do line up with the days that I might not be as happy with some work that I did or whatever it may be. And so it is really, really important to make that you time. Like how I said, I work out in the morning every day before work. That is me being able to exude emotions or get ready for a day ahead of me. I mean, I don't know a hairstylist that doesn't have a therapist, but that helps also. But you definitely have to recognize that you're not going to be able to process emotions the way most people can at work. And there's some days I'll be leaving work. Even I could walk in and it could be an amazing day for me and I'm in a great mood, but then things happen at work, or like you're talking to people all day and sometimes someone's energy is off and it drains you, and you're with them for, say, like a 3-hour appointment and they're just sucking the life out of you because they're having a bad day. There's been times that I leave work and I'll text Mac and be like, hey, I'm on my way home, but I just need a few minutes to myself. And he'll be like, no problem. And I get home and I go in the bedroom and I just, like, whether I close my eyes and decompress or if I cry or if I need to listen to some music, but it's what you have to think of, what helps you and what are your tools that you can do to make yourself process things better.
It's incredible. What's happening in your life can and will creep into that chair, right? Be mindful of this.
Yeah.
Don't be hard on yourself or judge yourself. No. Like, be accepting of that. That's a natural thing, right? Yeah. And figure out the ways that you can create those outlets for yourself to better leave it at the door, or to give yourself some love and some space when you get home from a tough day, and say yes potentially to therapy, which, I mean, that's one of my favorite things that you've said the whole time, and it's going to segue. We've answered over 15 questions.
Nuh-uh, really?
Yeah, you're killing it. This is way more content than I thought that we would get, and I'm so grateful for your time. I have less than 5 left on my list, and so I feel like the next one I want to ask is about mental health, because we're in that area.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we both have therapists. We both go to therapy. I really, truly believe it as a really great tool. So I want to answer this question, then I'm take one more break, and we'll come back and finish it off if you still have time. Okay, cool. So you mentioned mental health. At this point in your career, you're probably in a place that was different 10 years ago, obviously, when it comes to figuring out how you can balance work life, right? So I love the idea that, once again, there's 2 different versions of you. What do you do now as far as trying to take vacation, or trying to give yourself certain days of the week that you actually don't feel like you need to be working, so you can have that work-life balance? And knowing that where you've gotten yourself to now, and I'm sure you'll continue to grow and continue to figure out the best balance of that, how does that inform what you would tell a younger version of yourself?
So I definitely, that's such a good question. I definitely make time for trips and vacations. I'm very pro vacation. I am also a planner, so I'm really good at planning ahead for those things. So I'm not normally someone who's rescheduling appointments to make time for a vacation. I will just automatically have it planned so that people can't even book on that day to begin with. Which is nice because I do it often enough that I always throughout the year have something to look forward to, which I think is a really nice thing to have. But I also know that it's not easy for everyone to be able to do that. I recognize that completely. I do think that, just if I could talk to my younger self about that whole subject, I would definitely tell her, you need to be patient to gain the ability to give yourself that off time entirely, and not just like weekends or whatever, but also that. I mean, I put in the work for 2 years of working almost 6 to 7 days a week. And that was because I had a goal in mind for where I wanted to be. But at the same time, now I always have 3 days off every single week, which is really important to me. And I value those days so much. And then like in the summer, I don't work on Saturdays. I work Tuesday through Friday, and I have Saturday, Sunday, Monday off because I want the summer weekends to every extent that I can get them. And that is so nice for me. I think like when I talk to other stylists and tell them I do that, they're like, oh my God, like that's such a good idea. Cause it's like, once you're booked enough, people are going to come to you when you have time. So I think it's really important. And just, you know, in general, having a therapist, that is the best thing you can have, honestly. Cause I mean, even if you have that go-to friend that you can talk to about everything, there's going to be issues or circumstances in life that you need someone to talk to, and that friend might not have the capability of providing correct feedback for you, or for them to house that that energy that you're then giving to them, whatever it may be. And it's nice to know that every single Tuesday at 3:00, I get an hour to just talk to someone about myself and what that week was like. I think that's so special. And then over time, they get to know you and they know how you handle things, and they can deep dive in a way that builds your toolbox. So on those other days, when you need a moment to yourself, you think, okay, my therapist said that if I just take a few minutes, and she knows that the breathing exercises help me, or like think of XYZ, like that's so important. That's the whole point of therapy, is building your toolbox so that you can better yourself for those people you interact with day in and day out.
I'm so happy with the way you said that. I think it took me 1.5 years, maybe 2 years of therapy before I started to actually allow myself to be vulnerable and open up and think about, this isn't just a space for me to be processing necessarily. And maybe there's a portion where it should, and it's necessary. And there is a lot of unwinding and untying knots, right? But at some point, the goal is what you just said, right? To actually start building these tools for yourself. And then that's when I've seen the greatest leaps in how that waterfalls into all these other elements of your life, because you actually start to have these assets that you've gone to that you can use. And it sounds like for this career, especially, to be able to know you have a toolkit that's ever expanding, that's out of love for yourself and your own self-worth, that can help you when things aren't always great. Okay, so we've been talking about mental health. We've been talking about taking care of yourself, because you want to give the best version of you, because it's going to have an impact on who's in your chair. Let's think about you and everybody else out there who at some point was in a salon that maybe they didn't want to be going into anymore. It wasn't the work of, it wasn't the art of what you're doing with people's hair. It was the actual place that they didn't want to be anymore. So what is your thoughts on when to quit a salon?
So my thoughts are, when you are feeling dreadful every time you're walking into that establishment, that is the final sign that you need to be leaving. I have stayed at salons longer than I should have, because I love the team there, but maybe I didn't like how the place was run. But I would be like, oh, but I love these people so much, I don't want to not work with them. But then that stunted my growth as a stylist. And then little things like, and this goes really a lot for commission stylists, like, are the supplies and the products that you need in stock often, or are you constantly like, oh, we're out of this again, or, oh, they didn't order this? That's a huge factor that I've also experienced. Also, just seeing, even as a renter, like, how are you respected by the owner? Like, do they just kind of treat you as like, oh, like you pay me money every month, so just go do your thing? Or do they actually want to engage with you and make you feel part of the team? But I think in general, I've experienced getting to the point where as soon as I'm in the space, I feel like I want to rip my own hair out. And that's not something that you can undo. That's not something we can fix. That is the final sign. But you just, the beauty of going to working in a salon is your coworkers, everyone is doing their own work. it's not like you work on a team that is working on one project. And so you have to work together for that. We are all working on our own separate projects. So that means you collectively, when you are together with those people, you're friends. Like, you should be friends. You should be able to chat and bullshit with each other and have fun or whatever. And if you're not connecting with your coworkers like that, that's a big red flag that like maybe that space isn't for you, because during the day, those people you work with are going to be those little safe havens to recharge your battery to continue throughout the day. So you want to make sure that you really enjoy the people you're working with. You want to make sure that the atmosphere that's around you that you're working in every day is something that makes you feel good and brings you joy. And, definitely the first factor that is sometimes ignored for too long is, do you agree with how the place is run? And do you feel like you have a support system there? Because if the answer is no, then it's not the place for you. I feel like once all of those lights are off or they were never on to begin with, it's not the salon to stay at.
Which I think is a really good segue to now you get to be an owner, right?
Yeah.
You get to do all the little things, make sure that product is properly ordered. So let's just run with that.
Okay.
What are some of the things that you're really proud of yourself that you do differently in your salon for your renters and for yourself that maybe in a large way was informed by things that weren't done right at salons that you worked at before?
I think that's actually a great thing that Teeny and I had going for us, is that we, going into opening a salon together, knew all the things that we disliked or the things that we liked. And so we were able to collaborate on that. But one of the things as a renter that we have both experienced in the past is, if you're renting, you are in charge of ordering all of your supplies, and you have to store it, whether it's in your station or if they give you a space to put your stuff. And it creates limitations, and then you are responsible for all of that. Something that Teeny and I thought was really important, and we thought would also make sense for the fact that we have a small salon, we don't have a ton of extra space for people to store all of their products, is we all basically use the same brands and the same products in general for color. So we provide all of that for everybody, but they each month, we do it like it's a point system and all this, but you pay a percentage of the cost of the products depending on how much you used and how many clients you saw, XYZ, all of that. And it makes it
open,
easier.
you're transparent about how you're doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
So people, yeah, that's great.
And so like whenever they come in to rent, like when we hired the 2 new girls last year, we let them know like, hey, here's how we do it. Like there's some color lines that people don't use, but the one that we use primarily is a brand that most people use in the salons. And so we're like, hey, we're going to order all of this and have everything for you all the time, but you pay a percentage based on everyone you see and how many, like, and what the service was. And they're delighted with that, because that means they don't have to worry about ordering every single week or every other week to re-up their own stock. And I think that has helped a ton. I would have loved that as a renter, because I had, as a renter, this tiny little locker that I had to keep everything in. And sometimes I would need more than what could fit in there. So then I would have to put in my station, but then that is taking up like real estate for my tools and all of that stuff. So it's been really good for that. And also, like, if any of the girls are ever like, hey, like, can we try blah, blah, blah? And it's like, say, a new product that's out or whatever, we're like, oh yeah, let's get it on board. We might all love it, and then just keep ordering it. So
I think it's always such a great place to come from of, I wish I would have had,
Yes.
would have loved to, and then you get to do that.
Definitely.
I think that's great.
And I think a lot of people are also shocked. A lot of clients are shocked when they learn that our salon is all renters, because I feel like the dynamic of renters in a salon is normally very like, you can go in and feel like everyone is running their own mini business out of your space. Whereas you come in, and I mean, you've experienced it too. Like, all of us join in on conversation. Clients will start talking to each other. If I'm talking about something with my client, Teeny and her client might join in, and it turns into like a very like old school barbershop vibe in that sense. And so when people learn that they're renters, they're like, oh my God, I never would have guessed that. And it's funny that clients pick up on that. And it's something that I would think would go unnoticed to them. But I feel that we've created a really enjoyable environment for someone to run their business out of.
So if we're going to go into that just one more layer under, right? Because what you basically said is, hey, how they feel with me is going to be key to retention.
Yeah.
Right. And how I make them feel, or how they've had this experience. And part of that is also going to be them realizing that even though these are renters, we're not dealing with like a detached, siloed business operation. It actually feels like everybody's co-founders in some way. Like they're all part of like something together. Right.
Yeah.
So any advice or tips or things that you felt like you guys actually intentionally thought of to try to create that beyond it just kind of magically happening?
You know, honestly, I don't think there's anything we intentionally did. I feel like it did just happen. And I think me and Teeny being best friends and constantly laughing at work and being playful helps that, because it allows people to feel more comfortable and being able to like just loosen up and knowing it's not an uptight place. So I guess the environment that we built is what helped that along. Because people are able to feel at home there. And so
I would say that's a real answer though. I would say that that's not magical and something that just happened, even if it feels like it's something that just happened. It means that leadership or the people that own this place are demonstrating that it's okay to be silly or fun,
I guess that's true. Yeah.
Or be themselves.
Absolutely.
And I can see that if the people that technically, like the people that are the owners of this place are okay with that, then I can feel like it's okay to be myself.
Totally.
So I would say that that's actually a good lesson there, right? Is if you find yourself in a position where you are a leader or you have some type of authority, knowing that then how you behave and how you allow like the most genuine version of yourself to kind of play out at work, sends a message to other people about how free or themselves they can be.
I think sometimes there's moments at work where I will be talking about something with a client or my general behavior that I think to myself, if someone in this moment that doesn't know learns that I'm the owner of this place, they're going to think I'm like that crazy, because I just get in we just get in really goofy moods there. And Teeny and I always joke that back by the sinks, you enter you go through a curtain of like drug goofiness, because if she and I are back there shampooing clients at the same time, the amount of like sleepover giggles that happen, and every single thing that is like, if we even look at each other, we will start laughing. If we're like, no matter what happens, and we always say that we've gone through like the drug curtain because we just get so loosey goose back there. But yeah, I love that I can have fun at work every single day.
Let yourself be silly and fun.
Yeah. Because it also makes the client feel more comfortable too. I mean, like, to an extent, you don't want to be in there like, I guess I don't even have to really extend on that, but like there is a limit to how goofy you can be.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about being an entrepreneur, right? And having a salon. What kind of conversations have you guys had? Are you having, or are you planning on having in the future about the community impact of being a co-owner of a physical space in the Lower East Side of New York City?
The beauty of where we are located in Lower East Side is we're so far east that we are between a bunch of schools, like elementary and middle schools. So our street is super quiet. It's not for anybody who is familiar with Lower East Side, it's not the craziness that's normally down there. I think people are actually shocked when they get to the location. They see that we're one of two businesses on the entire block. And because of that, it's given us the opportunity to get to know all of our neighbors really well. And just, I feel like we've become like Love Dunette and Mildred have become, enjoyable places for people in the neighborhood to even walk by, because we're always like, we're always down to chat and say hello. Dogs and little kids will come visit Hattie all the time. We really do try to help out with like anyone who seems to be struggling in any way that's in the neighborhood, to whatever extent that allows us to do. And it's really nice in that sense. I feel like we have been a positive impact in that area. By no means have we been life-changing down there, but I feel like out of most businesses that could open, we've been interactive with the community in general.
The big question that is on everything I research when people are trying to figure out how to be a great hairstylist now is how do they value and think about using social media, especially Instagram. So tell me, Jenna Pitocco, your thoughts on Instagram / social media, TikTok, as a hairstylist.
It's so important. It's a running portfolio. I'm lucky enough that I've built enough on my Instagram that I've gained a lot of clients from it, but I'm at the point now also that I don't have to keep up with it all the time with posting hair because I have that book built out. And if someone new goes to my page, they see enough of my work that they understand what I do. It's so stressful. Like having social media being a forefront builder of your business is very stressful because it is your brand and what you need to do to build that up. I very much chose to not go onto TikTok for my business. When I go on TikTok, it's my mindless app. And it's also for me to go on and just post, like I post my baking videos and stuff on there because I'm like, this has nothing to do with my career. That was on a different platform. But I do think that the importance of keeping up with social media for that portfolio is so important because like even think of you and I have experienced looking for a tattoo artist. If you went onto their social media or you found out that they didn't have any, well, first of all, I don't even know how you would have found out about them, but if they don't have any, that's a weird, like, wait, why don't they have anything? I can't see any of their work. But then also like if you go to a shop's page and you're scrolling through and you're like, oh, I like how this looks. Who did this? And you click on it and then it takes you to their page and then you get to see more of their work. That can help build into like your confidence in someone's ability to do what you want. And I mean, if you look at my page, it has a lot of like a reoccurring theme of the type of hair I do. But then there's other stylists that I follow that if you go to theirs, it's all very vivid, bright rainbow colors where like, you would be like, oh, I wouldn't go to this person for a natural lived in highlight. I would go to this person for a bold look. So it definitely, it's a lot of pressure.
It's
I also
your brand.
think
It's like you said, it's your brand.
That's how I built. I mean, when I still had peachy hair before Love Dunette came a thing, that was my brand.
Yeah.
And I think I'm so thankful that I was able to be in the era of Instagram brand building, because if I was on having to do TikTok, it's one thing to post photos, but to have the pressure of creating videos all the time, oh my God, I would not enjoy that at all. And I think like it's very evident that like the more creative you are, the better your TikTok will do. So you would have to really think outside of the box. And that is just, I feel for anybody who's entering this industry now and having to start their social media presence, because it's not easy. That's not a light topic at all.
Other than the really heavy, hard stuff of you now need to become like a cinematographer, know how to edit and cut and do all this stuff. Other than that heavier stuff, which I'm sure there's really great videos for that resource too.
Yeah.
Some of the more easy things that you do, I imagine, functionally, is just make sure that it's super simple when they're on your page to have some link out to, booking or resources, or, that it becomes a de facto other website, that they know how to get to places and how to ask questions or something.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, this is it. We have one last section and it's fun. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah.
You ready to talk? Okay.
I am.
I really like asking people when I meet them, what are the questions that they wish people would ask them, right? Which I think we've done a lot of. Mm-hmm. And then what are the questions that you're kind of like, you have no idea how many people ask me these questions and how I'm probably going to continue to hear them for the next 20 years. And so PSA, right? PSA from a hairstylist. Listen, these are the things that I and probably other hairstylists have already been asked and aren't super interested in hearing anymore. So what is your PSA to the people out there that are just trying to be nice and make small talk, you know, when it comes to asking you questions about your work?
I always try to put myself in the person's shoes that are asking me these questions, because in my mind, I'm like, sometimes I think that they feel that they just need to be asking me a question. And so they resort to, so what got you into doing hair? Which is fine because you want to know how I got interested in it, but just, I don't know what it is, but the wording of it, it's like, oh God, not again. And then there's always the question of like, so do you prefer to cut or color more? And again, like, I understand you want to know what I do prefer, but it's just, oh my God, it's like beating a dead horse answering these questions. I wish that people would ask more about, where did my career start? That's a question that I would tell you where it started, but it probably will also get me to talk about how I got into this career at all to begin with also. And I also wish that people would ask more about, like, you know, like, what did you do in hair before you opened up the salon? That's another way to find out more about my career and everything. Because quite frankly, if you did any, like, if you even went to like, I don't know, looked up a bio or something on our website, you'll see a little bit of my story there. So that those questions about like, how did you get involved in the industry? Like, I don't know. I said that to you. I was like, I hate being asked that, but I do understand, like, some people that sit down in the chair really do want to know that, but I just wish that it was asked differently, because that is something that's asked all the time. And also, where did the name come from? Again, like, I totally understand, like, you don't know what Love Dunette means or why we would name a salon that, but it's just like, I don't know. It's one of those questions you don't want to be asked anymore, you know?
I think so much of it is potentially just baseline human behavior, like a natural thing. If you get asked a question enough times, no matter the question, your brain actually starts to just like become numb to it. Even if you're like incredibly well-meaning and you know that somebody just wants to know something more about something, you know? So I think it's a fun PSA to anybody willing to watch an entire YouTube video. It's a fun PSA to be like, sometimes a gift, if you're willing to go the extra mile, sometimes one of the greatest gifts you can give to somebody, you know, and it's not just a hairstylist, somebody that you're interacting with as a client in any method, might be to not go ahead and ask them a more obvious question and to connect with them on a human level, right? And the same way that you would if you were having a drink with somebody and you wanted to know something, maybe.
Totally. I think it's definitely how I was saying, rephrasing a question that could possibly lead to everything else. Like, what did you do before Love Dunette? That would be so much more fun for me to answer. And I also find myself, when I have to answer the same questions over and over, each time it gets less enthusiastic on my end or less detail is given. Because in my mind, I'm like, oh, let's just get this answer out of the way, which
like
is
you're at like you've been doing a circuit for a new movie that came out, and you have to answer the same reporters' questions about what it was like to work on set with somebody, you know?
Yes, it's like Lady Gaga when they did the compilation of how many times she said, you could be in a room of 100 people and 99 don't believe in you, but one will. There was like a compilation of her saying that probably 30 different times after Star is Born came out, and that is exactly what it's like in my head.
Well, I actually think this is helpful for me doing future interviews, as you kind of got me to a place where I understand why I want to ask that question. And I think that the baseline reason we're spending so much time thinking about this is, what if it's as simple as ask less questions about somebody's work and how their work informs their identity, and ask more questions. Ask more questions about who that person is without the work informing their identity, just as like you would if I just met you at a dog park, like try to have questions that are less work identity focused.
I think that's a great way to put it.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, imagine I've worked in insurance for 12 years. Imagine people wanting to ask me or talk to me about insurance.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you ready to hear back to you some of the key cheat sheet points? And I'm sure I missed some and I'll work on them in editing, but are you ready to hear the unedited version of the cheat sheet? And we'll probably do this off air, what you want them to be on. And there'll be like a really pretty graphic right here on the screen that'll say Jenna's cheat sheet. Okay?
I love it.
So there's a bunch on here and then we can cut it down. But you are pro Paul Mitchell.
Yeah, it was a great school.
You want to be able, if you can, to learn multiple things wherever you're educating and not get stuck down one specific niche type of tree, right? You want to cut and color. Is there like a third or fourth major thing you want to be learning? Or is that like the two branches you want to be
Those are the two main ones. Cosmetology also teaches like a few others, but those are like the main two that you
learn cutting and coloring. Learn both.
Yeah, learn both.
Yo, simple. Work out.
Work out.
Take
care of yourself.
This is my favorite one. Just tell your client you need to pee.
Yeah, that's so true.
Social media nowadays can be a huge part, if not like the part of your continuing education.
Yes.
And you're going to offer up a few links that I'll be able to float onto the screen of like, here's Jenna's.
I can email you after with
and
some people.
I'll throw those up for people to watch on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or whatever. Let's advocate for trade schools. The amount of money that you spent learning something that you were actually interested in, you could see your growth happening in real time versus when you were at college and you're showing up just because you knew you were like supposed to. It's a phenomenal contrast that's completely radicalized you towards really wanting to be loud about the value that people can find in trade schools. Cool.
Yes.
Research your salon. Check out the websites. Look at the area on Google Maps, Street View. Read the bios of the stylist. Think about the demographic that is going to be coming in there. Are they cookie cutter? Are they edgy? Look at the shopping bags that they're carrying.
Yes.
So smart. I love that.
Thank you.
If you can, I don't know if everybody can because we didn't really talk about this, take a trial day at a salon. Yeah. Get a feel. We're actually here at the appointment. Jenna says, take a collective breath before getting in the chair. Not just you. Make sure that you're creating a scenario that your client is taking that breath. You're getting them a whiskey neat or a water. You're allowing them, even if they were running late, you're allowing them that moment to just slide into the chair and we're going to have a good session because you want them to feel that way when they think about you. Conversationally, try to pivot. Try not to get into the habit of taking it back to yourself with the conversation, right? But to flowing it to your client with really smart pivots. Even if they're trying to ask you something about your day that you've already answered 10 times that day, get better and better at knowing that they want to know something about you. And that's really sweet, but find a way to take that question that they had and turn it back to them so that you don't, make yourself go crazy by 4:00 in the afternoon because you've told everybody exactly what was on your grocery list yesterday.
Yes, exactly.
You don't have to be a master active listener all day. You do need to work on keying into interest and passion points when they get brought up. And that's what's really going to matter to your client. Building your book has been hugely dependent on that, and social skills and just making somebody feel comfortable. That's been a huge part of leading to your retention.
Yeah.
Damaged hair clients. Okay. I love this. Thinking about how you're going to phrase that conversation that you weren't even able to do when you were younger, but now you feel like you can confidently say, we can't get there today, but we can get there. This is what I think it'll look like. This is why I think it'll look like that. And this is how we would get there. I'm going to under promise and over deliver. Okay. Mental health, what's happening in your life can creep into the chair. So be mindful of that. Find the best outlets. Working out's a huge one for you. Going to therapy. Find ways to, really think about where your head is in a way that's loving towards yourself. To try to leave that stuff at the door. So it doesn't affect those days. It might be time. No, not it might be time. It is time to leave a salon when you're dreading going in.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Let yourself be silly and fun if you can at work. Go through the drug curtain. And if you could tell...
I love that.
If you could tell anybody, you'd say, hey, ask me less questions about my work and more questions about me. That's a gift you can give to people that are working on your hair.
Yeah.
When you're sitting in the chair, if you want to be a better client.
Yes.
So how do you feel about Jenna Pitocco's cheat sheet?
I think it's great. It's exactly what what I would need 11 years ago going into the industry.
Thank you so much, Jenna Pitocco, co-founder of Love Dunette, which is literally neighboring. Right next to it is Mildred, the salon, and they're both incredible. I just want to plug the hell out of your work at Love Dunette. Hey, I know her on Instagram. Mildred, check it all out. If you're in New York, see if you can get an appointment. And if you think, like I do, that Jenna should be doing more content potentially like this because she has a great voice for others,
hey,
please comment. Let us know what questions you wish we would have had, what you'd like to see more of. And yeah, let's hype up our favorite New York hairstylist. Jenna, thank you so much for answering over 20 questions about your industry and being so open and so vulnerable. This was a blast. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was wonderful. I feel like you and I just went and got coffee and got to hang out with each other for a while. So this was very enjoyable.
I'm literally going to download Obey right now and just do some squats. That's how much energy I have.
That's
Thank
amazing.
you so much. Let's do it again.
Thank you. Awesome.